Yay! We've been doing our Finding Yourself in Transition, the book written by Robert Brummett. This is only our second week. Last week, if only I could remember what we did. Anybody remember? But this week, we're doing Overcoming Fear. Part of overcoming fear for me is the ability to remember what I did last week. My brain goes completely crazy, or what I feel is inactive when I'm in fear. So you guys remember the chant that I taught you last week? Change, bring it on. No, I love it. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. Let's do it together. Change, I love it. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. Yeah, you guys, you almost had me convinced. Change, we love it. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. So I want to get into overcoming fear. I've worked a lot on this topic. I've worked a lot on this topic. How many of you worked a lot on overcoming fear? Yeah. It's our number one thing, right? It's the number one thing that keeps us from stepping forward into our greatness, into our where we shine, into our passion. Fear. It's the thing that holds us back. But before I get into talking about fear, I want to talk a little bit. I want to give you a little bit of a Bible lesson. Because the last couple of weeks I've been quoting or reading to you from the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament. Last week we sang along with the group, the Birds, as they sang turn, turn, turn. And because that was from Ecclesiastes 3, actually. And that is an Old Testament book. The first 5 books of the Old Testament are what's called the Torah. You guys familiar with the Torah? Let's see. I'm gonna pull this out of my hat here. It's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Yeah, you guys are good. Okay, never mind. I don't need to give you a Bible lesson, do I? But I'm going to keep going anyway. So today I want to talk to you from Joshua. I want to share Joshua with you. And Joshua is the one that became the leader of the Israelites when Moses made his transition. You know, Moses, if you remember, took the Israelites out of the bondage of Egypt and crossed the Red Sea, took them around forever and ever, and eventually they ended up settling on the east side of the Jordan River, right across from the Promised Land. The Promised Land, the land that God promised to their ancestors, right? So when Moses passed, Joshua took over as the leader, and God gave him a commandment that I think is wonderful. It says, I hereby command you, be strong, courageous, do not be frightened or dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Take those people across the Jordan River. Don't be afraid to do it. Step forward, move on, be courageous. I'm with you all the time. Wow. If we could remember that, we'd have no fear ever, right? If we could remember that, unfortunately we forget. We forget and we react in fear. I hereby command you, be strong. So we're talking about change and the fear that's around change. You know, like I said last week, we all love change, but none of us want to actually change. So we have a lot of fear around change just simply because it's the unknown, simply because it's something different, even if it's something that we want. I mean, things that we really want. We're afraid of the change. You know how often people will say, my passion is really to do this or do that. But I'm afraid. I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? That I won't be successful. That I won't make enough money. That I'm just afraid. I know everybody can relate to that because that's where we get to. And so we have a tendency to stay where we're comfortable, which is not necessarily where our passion is, right? Change. I've had to do a lot of overcoming fear, as you all have. Coming here, huge change. A change I never thought I'd make, right? And I used to say I'm scared to death to speak in public. I'm not saying that today. I'm not going to say that today. As I'm not scared to death to speak in public. I forget that I'm not scared sometimes. I forget that God is with me always. And so then I'll get in my head a little bit, my mouth will go dry, and I'll have to drink some water. But that's okay. I've overcome that being afraid to death of speaking in public. Done a lot of work around it. And I've got some ideas for you for overcoming fear. And I know that a lot of you already have things in place that we do, or that you do when you catch yourself being afraid. Lots of different methods to become unafraid, or to walk through the fear. Even if you are afraid, bravery is just walking through it anyway. Do it anyway, right? But the first thing you have to do is recognize that you're afraid. A lot of times, I think I'm angry when I'm really afraid. Because somebody's done something I don't like. Or they haven't done something I wanted them to do. Or I didn't get my way in some way. And I'm mad. But really I'm afraid. I can take any negative feeling that I have, and if I'll sit with it long enough and pray about it and meditate with it, I can bring it back to a fear of something in my life. I'm afraid I'm not going to get something that I want. I'm afraid I'm going to lose something I already have. Or I'm afraid I'm not worthy and somebody's going to figure that out. It can fall into one of those three categories 100% of the time. But we have to pause and wait and recognize it. Because we can't do anything with it as long as we continue to blame it on everybody else, right? Because that's what we often like to do. I'm angry, but it's that person's fault. That they did something to me. They're not acting the way I want them to act, or they treated me badly, or whatever it is. My boss gave the promotion to somebody else. Whatever it is. But we have to pause and recognize what the fear is. I have to tell you, I went through lots and lots and lots of therapy of all kinds to get to the point of identifying that fear of being up here today. I mean, we dug into my childhood. We did all kinds of things for many, many years to find out, to identify what it is that made me so afraid to sing or talk in front of anybody on the planet. Everybody knows today with you guys, I'll belt it out at the top of my lungs. Little concern of whether or not I have even on key. You know, a lot of times we do know. We've done some work. You guys have all done a lot of work. And so you recognize what you're afraid of. And you can do whatever the methods are that you put in place to calm yourself so that you can walk through the fear and recognize your part of the behavior. But sometimes we need to have professional help. And I tell you, I've done them all. I've done them all. You know, sometimes you need to do past life regression. Sometimes you need to do EMDR work for the trauma. Sometimes you have to do anything. All of them. body healing, Reiki healing, talk therapy for years and years and years, right? But I'm standing here today. I'm telling you, it all works. If you can identify it, then you can start to take action. You know, I still do have to drink my water every once in a while. That's my keto. I listen stick to my keto. But that's okay. You can take action. As soon as you recognize that you're in fear, you can start meditating, you can pray. Yeah, sometimes professional help, lots of times professional help, but sometimes right in the middle of it, just a prayer. Just a prayer will do the trick. Pray and meditate. Exercising is a great way to get out of it. Tapping, calling a friend. But you don't call a friend so that you can repeat it over and over again. You don't call a friend so that you can relive it and get even madder. Have you ever done that before? And you try to coalition build by bringing in your friends and you're not gonna believe. No. That's not why you're calling a friend. You're calling a friend so that they can tell you, Roxanne, you were being a little selfish there. Now that's a true friend that will tell you you'll feel better if you stop being selfish. You know, my top 3 things are prayer, meditation, and being of service. I think that that's the true cocktail for bringing ourselves to being right-sized and right with the world. Prayer, meditation, and being of service to others. And sometimes that friend that you call, even though you think what you're going to do is complain about somebody or something or do whatever, you know, the universe will intervene and that person will need something right then. That person will be in a space where they need to talk to you immediately. And instead of you jumping into your problems, you'll listen. And by the time you're off the phone, because you were of service, you calm way down, you feel much better. Right? You've overcome that fear. So when change comes, we know what to do. We know that we need to pause before we react. How many of you have gotten that perfected? Yay, there were a couple, and that's awesome. I'm not going to raise my hand because it certainly isn't. You know, there are certain areas that will just trigger me. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter how much practice I have. It has something to do with my kid. Boom. Instantaneous. It has something to do with my dog. Boom. Instantaneous. You know, my granddog. I booked him an appointment. Grandma takes him to the vet. So I booked him an appointment to have his teeth cleaned. And I get a little text back from my daughter when I tell her that he's going, and she goes, but can't he go sooner? He's not acting right. And I'm still like, well, what's he doing? Texting her back, and she's not texting. What's he doing? No text back. What do you mean? He's acting weird. Oh, for crying out loud, calm down. It's that bad. She will let you know. But it's so funny. I have to go, wait. Okay. I'm in the midst of this chaos. And that's what we do sometimes, right? We get ready for some change. We get ready for something that we don't recognize. We see something new. We get a little scared. And then we churn it up. Create some more chaos. So the big trick is pause. Don't cause any more trouble. Don't borrow trouble from tomorrow, as Jesus has told us. So those are my favorite, prayer, meditation, and being of service, the perfect cocktail. But I also am very fond of the 10th step in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I believe I've shared this with you before, but it deserves to be shared again. You know, in the 10th step on page 84, it gives 5 steps to bringing yourself back to the now, bringing yourself back to being steady and able and ready to move on with your day. It gives you the opportunity Every single time that you're upset, to bring yourself back and start your day again. 5 steps. And I wrote these 5 steps on an index card and taped them on the monitor at my job. They were there for over a decade. And it was beautiful because I got used to using them. They became a habit to me. And it was really funny because at the very end it says that you're going to go do something for someone else, right? And people would think randomly I'd just be bringing them coffee. Or I'd be making their copies. Or I'd be doing something in the office. So on page 84, it says, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear when these crop up. It doesn't say if these crop up. You notice that, right? It says when these crop up. We ask God at once to remove them. So we immediately go into prayer. First thing we do when we recognize. And we're being vigilant and watching and paying attention. Am I feeling bad? Is my stomach upset? Am I angry, resentful, or fearful? If I am, I'm going to stop and ask God to remove it immediately. Which He will do, by the way. We discuss them with someone immediately. And not to go complaining. Remember, it's not to go to complain. It's so that you get the opportunity to start your day all over again, brand new, without carrying that around. You get started all over again. Talk to somebody, discuss it with someone immediately, and then go make amends quickly if you've harmed anyone. If you caused any more extra chaos, go apologize for it. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone. For by this time, sanity will have returned. Yeah, right? By this time, sanity will have returned. And you have to recognize that when we're in the height of our fear, we are insane. We step back, pause, ask God to fix it. Take it away. Not fix it, but take that fear away. Share with someone who understands the process. I had a list of 5 people that I could call during the day. If the first one didn't answer, I went to the second one, third one. Rarely ever had to go past the third one. I had a list of 5 people I could call and say, I just made a complete of myself. They go, okay, you need to make amends. Yes. All right. Get on about that business. Thank you. Then I'd get on about the business of making amends where I needed to. And then I'd go get somebody a cup of coffee, or I'd go make somebody's copies, or I'd offer to run something across the street to the other building. Whatever I could do to make somebody else's load a little lighter. Whatever I could do to get out of myself. Because service helps us get out of our own head. Helps us get out of our own fear. One more thing I want to share that I love to do when I have a fear. When I am in fear of anything, I love to write it down. I'm afraid of cats. Doesn't matter what it is. I like to go with somebody. I'm not afraid of cats. I like to share that with somebody who also has a fear. And they'll write down their fear and they'll give it to you. And then you carry it with you, their fear. You carry their fear with you. And whenever you start to be afraid of whatever's going on with you, you bless it, let it go, and pray for them. Wow. Magical stuff happens when you do that. When you can let go of your fear and pray for someone else's prayer. Magic happens with that. What I really want you to remember is not to create more chaos. Clean it up if you do. And remember what God said to Joshua is also true for each one of you. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And so it is. Amen.